If you clicked on this video, I guess you'd love to play blues licks effortlessly, but it's just not coming naturally. Well, let's fix that right now with 10 quick steps which will guarantee you'll sound great. Now you probably already know the blues scale. It's just the pentatonic with one extra note added, the blue note. So here it is in E minor. And as soon as you hear it, you immediately get that blues vibe. So now we know the scale we'll be using. The way this is going to work is we'll take a few steps, then play a solo and just keep building our knowledge. So for our first step, let's start by simply targeting the root. So we're in the key of E, and here in our blues scale, we have the root note of E, here at the 14th fret on the D string. Now we can target this note, perhaps just by sliding into it, or hammering on from the 12th fret below. Super simple, but effective. Step 2, let's add in another note, this time with a bend. Now if we come up to the 12th fret on the G string, we find a G, the minor third in our scale, and we can give this note a very small bend up to push it slightly sharp. This is known as a microtonal bend. Then if we come back to our root note of E, you really hear the blues flavour. Hear how I'm just pushing the G sharp and then landing on the E. So now we have 3 notes and we can start forming licks. For step 3, let's go for a bigger bend, bringing in the blue note. Now using this A at the 14th on the G, we can bend up either a full bend, equivalent to 2 frets higher, so a B, or a half bend, equivalent to 1 fret higher, giving us a B flat, which is the blue note in our scale, creating a super dark sound. So try bending this note to different degrees at different speeds. It's here that you really create that weeping blues tone, like so. Now, see how so far we've used 4 notes, 12 and 14 on the D and 12 and 14 on the G. This creates a really nice little box, super comfortable under your fingers, and you can view this as your home base for blues licks. At this stage, we actually have everything we need to start soloing, so let's do it. Now let's stay around this same position, but make things a bit more interesting. And for step 4, we'll try playing 2 strings at once. Now when bending, it really fattens the sound to add in another note. So we were just bending on this note at the 14th on the G. If we also add in the 15th on the B at the same time, things start to get interesting. You hear that? Then we also had the microtonal bend on the 12th at the G. So now let's also bar on the B string as well, and hear how thick that sounds. So combining those two together really thickens up the sound and makes things a lot more interesting. Step 5, and let's take a closer look at the blue note. So we have this darker sounding blue note, a B flat here at the 15th on the G, and it can sound a bit out of tune if we linger on it too long. But if we flick off it more quickly, it adds tons of blues feel. Like so. I'm just sliding from 15 into 14 nice and quickly, and you hear that blues flavour. It also works great to create a repeating pattern with the notes below. Something like so, where I'm just sliding up to it and then back down again and then off to 12. Nice bluesy lick there. Okay, now we've got some more tools in our box, it's time to solo again, and things are really starting to take shape. time to branch out from this position. So for step 6, let's look at targeting a higher root note. Now we have another root note of E here at the 12th fret on the high E, so we can use this as a target as well. And just like we used the microtonal bend at the 12th fret of the G, and then resolve down to our root note of E on the D string, we can do the same, but this time we'll be bending at the 15th on the high E, and then resolving down to the 12th. So it's just the same thing, only higher. For step 7, let's add a bend into that high root note. Now if we make a full step bend from the 15th on the B, we get up to that same root note of E, and bending into it like this is always a great place to end a lick. Also, now we can make use of the fact we have these two E's bent and unbent, and either play them in unison or next to each other for some pretty cool sounds. On to step 8, and let's add in some classic Chuck Berry flavour with another 2-string idea. Now the two notes of the 12th fret on the B and high E strings will always work well together. So we could slide into them, or bend on the 14th of the G before playing them. Now, you can either play them simultaneously, like that, or pick them separately, but let them ring together. But either way, this is classic blues stuff. Maybe add in that big bend up to the root note at the end. There's a great blues lick right there. Now, one other thing to pay attention to is when we use this bend at the 14th on the G, this can lead us either back up to the B and high E strings, or function as a pivot point to bring us back down to play a lick on the G and D strings. See how I'm using it to transition between targeting the high root note here on the E string versus the middle root note at the 14th fret of the D there. So now we have some great ideas on the higher strings to play with. Let's put them into action on top of the techniques we learned earlier. Now we also need to think about the bottom strings, so for step 9, let's target the root on the low E. So just like we did on the high E, we can also find a root note of E here at the 12th fret on the bottom string, and we can also play the microtonal bend at the 15th. So it's just the same, but much lower. Now let me just acknowledge, this guitar sounds absolutely horrible on this lowest string, and the intonation's terrible. And for step 10, let's zone in on the A string where we'll find the blue note again. So here on the A string, we have 3 consecutive notes at the 12th, 13th and 14th frets, with the middle one being our blue note of B flat. Now, this works really well with hammer-ons and pull-offs, so let's start at the 12th, hammer on and pull off of the blue note at the 13th, and then back down the scale to our low root note. Something like that. Another way to approach this is to start on the blue note here at the 13th and then hammer on to the 14th and then up to the 12th on the D, which creates a repeating 3-note lick like this. So here's a quick solo using these lower down ideas. That's all 10 steps. Let's quickly recap and then bring it all together into one final solo. So step 1 was targeting the root. Step 2, the microtonal bend. Step 3, the big blues bend. Step 4, double stop bends. And step 5, using the blue note. Then step 6 took us up to the high root note with that microtonal bend. Step 7, bending to that high root note. Step 8, the 12th fret double stop. Step 9, the low root. again with the microtonal bend, and step 10, the low blue note. So here we go with the final solo. The tab and backing tracks will be on my Patreon, so check the links below. I hope you enjoy.